Good morning, I'm Ahmed Elnaggar and this is Monday Legal. My guest for today is a Swiss lawyer. He is the head legal of Swiss Group in the UAE and he is the president of Swiss Business Council. My friend, Michael Lane, good morning.
Morning, thank you for having me.
Thank you very much for coming today.
How's life?
Fantastic.
See, shortly before summer break, Eid break, nice you having me here this morning.
Yes.
Catch up on Monday Legal Podcast. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, and I'm very happy that I'm hosting you today, especially that we started our career in the UAE in the same place, maybe not the same time, but we had the beginning of our career here in Dubai and in the UAE at the same place. But I would like to ask you to introduce yourself more by telling me where did you start with the legal studies and where did you start your legal journey in general. I know you're coming from Switzerland, but I would like you to introduce your legal journey to us.
Okay, I try to keep it short and sweet. I started my legal career at law school at the University of Lucerne. You know, Lucerne is very much the typical Swiss place in the center of Switzerland, very mountainy lakes, you know, the typical Switzerland as you would imagine it. So a rather small university, but it helped, of course, also to grow like my career or start my career. After law school in Lucerne, I went to Zurich. Zurich, of course, is the commercial center of Switzerland, where I worked for almost 5 years in a commercial law firm. Before then, I came to the UAE. As you said, we started the same law firm here in Dubai almost 8 years ago. And here we are today, sitting across from each other, catching up.
Very good. Thank you very much for mentioning this. And it's also remarkable to say that Michael is one of the early members of Emirates Legal Network, and his support and bringing in knowledge and experience into the network was very remarkable and helpful for Emirates Legal Network to grow. Thank you for that. And I guess our connection even started a little bit before Emirates Legal Network, where we were chatting all the time, brainstorming and asking each other legal questions. And what did you do in that? And what's your opinion about this new law? And all this discussion was already happening between me and you before we joined Emirates Legal Network, both of us. And then it expanded so much into this. So I'll take the opportunity to ask you, what do you think about Emirates Legal Network, and do you actually find it a helpful platform?
I would say, as you said, you know, as a lawyer, it's always very important to be challenged, you know, to challenge each other, right? You need someone who can maybe bring in other views, another position, right? Of course, we started that before the formal Emirates Legal Network. Of course, the common starting point we had here in Dubai. Yeah. And I think Emirates Legal Network is basically the formalization of that, right? Where you provide a platform for the lawyers who want to challenge each other, who want to exchange thoughts, who want to exchange opinions and views. Because I think when you're a lawyer, there's not always black and white. There's a lot of gray in between. And it's nice when you have this platform to openly discuss points, you know, because of course, it's like, not talk about clients or specific like cases, but nonetheless, it's good to have this challenge and also maybe bring the legal platform and the lawyers as such a bit more forward, right? Yeah. Because you know how it is, even if you're in an office, let's say you have a small law firm, right? Where we don't have 10, 15, 20 lawyers. Of course, they can do this exchange within the company. But if you have a smaller law firm, a team of just a few, maybe from paralegals, some lawyers, some partners, different levels, right? Maybe as an associate, you don't want to go to the partner for certain things. You rather go to someone else, you know, a bit more objective, same level, you know. And I think this is what you need as a lawyer. And the Emirates Legal Network is basically just providing that platform, right?
Yes, absolutely. And on top of that, I mean, this is really a very knowledgeable platform.
Exactly.
And with the diversity of the lawyers there, you exchange information and knowledge and skills and experience with things that you've never worked with. I don't do criminal law, for example. Never. But when I have a question, I'm pretty sure that I'll get 5 answers.
And the thing is also, like, a client comes to you, right? Maybe there's a question which is not your area of expertise. Nonetheless, the Emirates Legal Network, you can pitch the question, you get answers from the experts in the field. It's not like a full answer, like the whole legal opinion, but nonetheless you get a certain understanding of a legal question, which makes you then able to give a client on relatively short term, short notice, still kind of a substantive answer, not just like ChatGPT if you want to do it, right?
Yeah.
Or Google or whatever platform you want to use. And I think that brings the legal community together. You know, it's not about like competition, because you know how it is amongst lawyers. It's always a bit the competitiveness, but you don't feel this in this network because we're all kind of partnering up to have the platform to exchange ideas, opinions, and that's important to have, you know.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I've never seen such a network, for example, in Switzerland, my home country, right? And this kind of like, I think this is very much Dubai and the UAE, you know. You have this vision, these new ideas. Again, I guess you have other colleagues you started like what we had before.
Yeah.
And then you say like, hey, why not do this like basically a bit more formal, right? Exactly. And also put the stamp on, you know. And I think that's what is the UAE, you know. You just go and try, right? Because maybe, I don't know, in other jurisdiction it would not work, but here it works, you know. And it also works because we have all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
All the nationalities from around the world, you know. I come a bit with Swiss legal background, you come with Egyptian legal background, you know, so we all bring something to the table which you can profit from all the members of the network. And I think that's very, very important to have.
Yes, you know? Yes, absolutely. I'll tell you, honestly, I did not come up with the idea, just to be very clear, and this is something
but it's
that,
like it started because you have the exchange with a few lawyers, right?
Yes, exactly.
So again, it's like you formalize what was already there before. And of course,
there was something that was called the Dubai Legal Professionals, and I give the credit to a very smart lawyer called Ryan Mendoza. I guess he was the one who started it, and I'm not sure if it still exists or not, but he started it, and he did this kind of setup, but it was a little bit lighter and it was less lawyers, and it was not formalized. I'm not sure how is it now, if it still exists, but this is how it started. But I will tell you honestly, I was at that time also a member of Swiss Business Council, and I was networking a lot, and I was understood the value of the community. So this idea from Ryan, together with the other membership that I had with the Swiss Business Council, I understood like, wow, if I have a mix of both, I can create something like really great and have it as a non-profit, really organized, with voting, with a lot of a committee of experts who will come on board and create something that is valuable for the community. And here we go, you know, 3 years down the line, and it's amazing what we have right now. That will take me to my next question to you. You were also a member of Swiss Business Council, just a regular member, and then you take up the ladder into becoming a president. How does that work for you? It's an amazing thing.
I see it a bit like this. When I came here to the Emirates almost 8 years ago, you know, when you come from abroad, so what is your first point of contact, right? As a Swiss, of course, I go to the Swiss Business Council. We don't have a club Swiss, so not like a social, basically, gathering, but the Business Council, you know? So I got engaged with the Business Council, then of course with our common employer at the time, who was also very much engaged already in the board, right? You kind of become part of the team, right? And I see it a bit like giving something back, because it's like, it's the same with Emirates Legal Network, you know? You become part, you have benefits, you participate, you have like, you have benefits, and you want to give something back, you know? It's more about this. And then I would always say it's about to be at the right time, at the right place, with the right people around. It's the same for you, for the legal network. It's like you had a good group of people who said, let's just start it, you know? And the Business Council is the same, because my predecessor was 22 years the president, right? So rather big shoes to fill. But nonetheless, it's like laws change. Also, let's say the regulatory framework for non-profits, like a Business Council, has changed, you know, because you know how it is. Non-profits are per se a red flag, right? So now you see like new laws, new rules have been implemented by Dubai Chamber. You have limited terms only, so you cannot be 20 years in the board anymore. And of course, after 22 years, like he built the council, Peter, right? But it's like, okay, now it's time to hand over because the law changes. I'm maybe not up to date anymore. I don't have the time. Let's give like younger people the chance to step up, you know? And then again, it's about having the right people around you because again, you don't get paid to do the job in the legal network association, right? So you put a lot of hours in, voluntary hours, but you only do that if you think like this is the right thing to do. Yeah. It's not about money. It's not about things, but you say like, okay, this is my little baby because I'm part of the founders, and I want to bring this to the next step, right? And you know how it is. Dubai is like, it's a competition, right? So if you do an event, anyone coming to that event could be at 5 other events at the same time, you know? So it's about like, what do you bring to the table, which other associations, other groups cannot bring to the table, right? And what you bring with the legal network is basically like you bring a platform for lawyers. You know, it's not about the accountant. It's not about whatever. It's about the lawyers. Yeah. It's basically a professional association.
Yes.
But it's a private association, which makes it nice. Swiss Business Council is the same. We are basically the Swiss chamber here in the Emirates, but we don't get money from the government, right? So it's like, we live from our... Exactly. Yeah. Maybe you have a sponsorship, membership fees, right? Yeah. But in order to attract members, you need to provide something interesting for the members, right? And it's always evaluating where do you want to go, what you want to do, right? And for the Swiss Business Council, it's the same. You know, it's like, for example, this year, for the first time ever, we did the first Swiss Emirati Economic Forum in Bern, right? So the Swiss Business Council, together with the UAE Ministry of Economy, and the UAE Embassy in Bern, we had the first economic forum. So from UAE side, it was His Excellency Dr. Zayudi who was on stage, and from the Swiss side, it was the State Secretary of Economy on stage, right? And we, as the Business Council, had our logo there, right?
Wow.
And this is, again, it's like we bring this for our members. It's a platform. Because the legal network is the same. It's a platform. You bring people together. If it's a business council, professional, association, and I think in the end you live with the members. Of course, the board, you have the flag and you go and give a good example, but in the end you only are, as an association, what the members bring to the table. And you see, you have this podcast. We have the WhatsApp group for exchanges and questions. We have different, basically, platforms and ways how we can interact. You have events where we have gatherings together, if it's an iftar or whatever, you know. But again, why do the members come to iftar? Because we have so many iftars, you know how it is.
Yes.
You know? And I always say, like, the quality in the end is about, like, what you bring to the table, you know? Yes. And I think here we're exactly the same. You know, it's like we put, like basically our efforts in. There's no monetary reward, but it's kind of our baby.
Yeah.
Right?
It's something that builds up, and honestly, I will tell you one thing that I found it very valuable, that I'm personally benefiting from it, maybe not money, but or fees or clients or whatever. It's just my network is becoming really solid. I can anytime call a lawyer whenever I need something. I will find the right information, the right contact. If I need a lawyer in the Bahamas who is specialized in family law at 6 p.m. on Saturday, I will find it because of my network.
And you know how it is.
Amazing.
Network is like you go to an event, you exchange a business card. Tomorrow, the week after, you don't care. But maybe in 3 months, like, hey, remember? There I met the guy, right? And in the end, you need to meet 10, 15 people to find the one right person. But if you don't
even
go
100 sometimes.
You know where I'm coming from.
I get you. Yeah. Very interesting. One thing I wanted to ask you: the Swiss community in the UAE is quite big, and it is remarkable. Every now and then you realize that the founder of one of the UAE-based companies or the managing partner of one of the even international companies, a Swiss person, and there's a lot of Swiss people living here in the UAE. What kind of, or what's the most common legal work that you do for Swiss people, since you are pretty much involved with the community?
I would say, you know, as a lawyer, of course, it's like, I know both, I have a knowledge, let's call it. I don't say I know everything, but I have a knowledge of the Swiss law and the UAE law. Yeah. So, of course, you might have a multinational working out of Switzerland who needs support here. And of course, their legal department is happy if they have a counterpart here who knows both ways, right? Or then, of course, you go into family law, you have a divorce case, right? Of course, it's the local attorney, local lawyer who takes care in court, but nonetheless, he needs guidance if they want to have, let's say, a divorce convention agreement under Swiss law, because they're both Swiss, right? So it's kind of like, we all have our niche here, right? You come with the Egyptian backpack, I come with the Swiss backpack.
Yeah.
And then like, when it's an individual, it's maybe a bit more family law, it's inheritance, maybe marriage, it's about rather these things, and we have the big multinationals who have cross-border implication, who are happy if they have someone who knows a bit where they're coming from and knows the place here, right? So I would say that the Swiss community as such is like, it's a variety, right? It's the whole society. You have the big multinationals, you have an SME, maybe who intends to come here, right? Or you have the individuals, the family, the parents who need some legal advice. Or if it's about pension, because you still want to have pension funds in Switzerland, what you do, how you can cash them when you live abroad. So they like kind of like, first of all, if someone speaks the same language.
Yes.
You know how that works, right?
Yes.
And it's like when you say A, they understand A and you do A, right? Because you have a certain understanding, right?
Yeah. Oh, they come on time.
The Swiss, yeah. The Swiss.
Yes.
No, and it's like, I would say, this is a bit the thing. And when you look at now, I just had a chat with our ambassador a few days ago. Currently, it's like almost every day, a Swiss person is moving from Switzerland to the UAE, right? So it's quite impressive when you see what's happening, right? And then it's also when you look, I just know the numbers from 2022, Switzerland was number 4 in terms of FDI, so foreign direct investments into the Emirates of Dubai, right?
Wow.
And Switzerland is
a very small country,
right?
Yes.
And I always say like there's a deep connection between the UAE and Switzerland, right? Because I always say it's like, we're like the small countries surrounded by the big brothers, right? So when you look at Switzerland, you have Germany, Italy, France, the big economic houses, right?
I always refer to the UAE as the Switzerland of the Middle East. That's my personal opinion.
And it's like a bit when you see now what's also happening in the UAE, of course, with Saudi, the big brother next door, that they have a bit, I would say, the same approach as Switzerland. Switzerland, you have a few things you're very good at. Watchmaking, financial sector, until very recently at least, right? and the UAE does the same. They say, like, we don't need to be good in all the sectors in the industry. We want to be good in certain sectors, right? This is a bit like where you say, I may be the small player, but I want to be the expert and the lighthouse in certain sectors, right? And I think even this understanding sometimes is kind of like reflected when you engage also with Emiratis here, because you come a bit from the same background, right?
The same values, the same ideas.
Exactly.
That's the targets are the same kind of.
Yeah. So how you see Saudi and the UAE?
I was asked this question a few weeks back, and this question came to me as like, do you see Saudi as a threat to the UAE or to development or attracting more foreign direct investment from the UAE? Well, I see the opposite. I see actually that the more strong neighbors, the number one country or that will benefit is the UAE. So if Qatar is growing, Saudi is growing, Egypt is growing, Oman is growing, this will only push the UAE up. It will not take from the UAE anything, because the exchange of benefits is going to grow. I understand that Saudi is doing fantastic work and doing tremendous efforts right now, spending so much to speed up the development and change the legislations and make it more attractive and more investor friendly and all of this. But I don't see it going out of the UAE because
I see it a bit the same way. I say like healthy competition is good. Even when you look into the Emirates, right? You have basically 2 financial centers, right? On a relatively small scale.
Yes.
Right? But nonetheless, a healthy competition is good, because you need to push yourself to innovate, to change, to adapt. And if you're just the only one out there, you can basically do whatever you want,
yes.
right? And I always say it's like when you look at the UAE and Saudi, I would say the big difference, of course, is like the UAE is a hub, while Saudi is its own retail market, right? Just from the size of population or whatever. So it's like you have a different maybe clientele you cater for. And that's why I said healthy competition is good, because in the end it brings the region up. Because what we have seen when we went to Switzerland, when you in Europe and you talk to the commoners, right? When you talk about the UAE, it's about tax evasion, Russians, and black money, right? So it's a lot. Also, my job as the president here from the chamber is to create awareness, you know. And it's like, you know how it is. It's like unfortunately we have the war in Israel and Gaza. For Europe, the Middle East is at war. But when you look on the map, Jerusalem and Dubai are as far apart as basically Jerusalem and Rome.
Yeah.
You know. So when you look at it, it doesn't make sense, right? But of course, all this reflects, right? And I would say, like, the more good news are coming out from the region, if Qatar is growing, or Saudi has big project, if it's the line, it's NEOM, it's the changes in the legislation, or the UAE, it lifts up the region as such, right? And everyone basically in the region is profiting, right?
Honestly, what you're saying is touching a very important point, because this is why I created Monday Legal. I'll be very honest, there's so many misconceptions.
Yeah, exactly.
And there's so many wrong information out there. I wanted lawyers from the world to say the things I want to say.
I make one example. You know, it's like, of course, we were on the grey list here, right? So that means all the Financial Action Task Force recommendation became obligation for us, right? To get off the list, you need to fully comply, right? And then in very simple term, the commercial register in Zurich has no clue who the shareholder is of a private company limited by shares registered in that commercial register. True, right? Here, you basically need to give the shoe size of the UBO to open the company. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know? And it's like, we have hard push when you look at the last 2 to 5 years. There was tremendous new legislation, tremendous effort from the government, from us as the private industry, if you're a non-financial business partner, a law firm, if you're a bank. And they say, we're in ADGM, right? You know how it is. The AML return every year for our law firm is the same as the bank next door. Right? Just to give a bit background, right? And when you do an onboarding KYC of your client, it's a whole different level than what our colleagues in Europe do. You know, I have been there, I've done it, right?
But what you're talking about right now, no one knows.
I know.
Honestly, they all, I mean, especially outside of the UAE, if you go to Europe or to US, they think like, oh, no, we are doing it.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah, it's not the Wild West. You can come to the UAE and do whatever you want. But that's not reality.
Exactly, it's not. Yeah. And I always say, it was the same in Switzerland. It's about the legacy. We need to clean up the legacy, you know. But Switzerland was the same. When you look at the Swiss banks, for example.
Yes.
I mean, there was a time, you know, when they also took money. I mean, it's an open secret,
of course.
right? You know. And for the UAE, it's the same, you know. And I would say, like, one part is like what we do today, and it's how we treat the legacy. Right? But today, as you said rightly, it's not the Wild West anymore. You know? And again, it's like when I talk to my Swiss colleagues, here, they know the UBO, you know? In a lot of jurisdictions in Europe, Switzerland, until very recently, had bear shares.
Yes.
You know? Just as a bit as an example, you know? And this is what I said before about creating awareness, you know? And this is a bit our job, right? This is maybe this tool, this is maybe when we're out, and basically this is our home now, right? So we are the ambassadors also for the UAE, you know?
Yes. I'll take you to that, because you have been very active going to Switzerland with some public organizations or associations here to speak about the UAE or to promote the business between the two countries. Can you tell me a little bit about these events?
So it's like we basically in different like levels, I would say, right? The Swiss Business Council, we're in the Swiss Tower here in DMCC. So DMCC is basically our home authority, right? We have a Dubai chamber license, but basically the branch in DMCC in the Swiss town, right? Yeah. So we got approached by DMCC and said, like, hey, we want to do a roadshow to Switzerland, because when you talk about commodity trading, Geneva is still a big player, right? And of course, it's not about taking them, the companies away, but it's basically to show them, like, hey, UAE might be a nice option to expand or like to think about it, right? Because I always say, from a Swiss perspective, it's like when you talk about, of course, we have the big one at Nestle, ABB, UPS, but Switzerland also has a big SME like level, right? And these is innovation, right? And when you talk about Swiss SME, if they would expand abroad, it would be maybe Germany, Italy, or France, right? Yes. This is just a bit the appetite. And it's like nice to say, like, hey, why not the UAE, right? So we got approached by DMCC from the Swiss Business Council. So we went there last year for one roadshow event in Geneva and one in Zurich. It's about creating awareness, And since in Switzerland, they don't basically have an Emirati Business Council, we play a bit both sides, right? So we're in contact with the UAE embassy and the consulate in Switzerland and with our embassy here. So we're like playing a bit both sides.
Double the role.
And then we were also in contact with the embassy, of course, again, when the outbound delegation with Minister, His Excellency Dr. Sayudi went to Switzerland for a full week, right? They, of course, had political meetings, and then it was one day should be economic exchange. So bring the UAE companies and the Swiss companies together and see a bit in industry sectors, how can we work together? Is there an opportunity? How can we do that, right? And there again, it was the embassy who approached us to be part of it because they have seen what we did for DMCC, right? And now, since, of course, we have now a bit this track record, we also got approached now by other entities and government departments here in the UAE who are interested in, like, hey, how can we team up, Because you know how it is. It's like, what can we bring to the table, So also this year, we at ADGM had the B2B roadshow, so they didn't have events, but we supported them to like, hey, how can we bring people to the table, which maybe you don't have the access, but I can bring you access to it, Because in the end, it's like, when you look at, I always call it like Team Switzerland here in the UAE. We have the embassy, we have the consulate, which is the hub, basically Swiss Global Enterprise, which is basically the government entity to promote export from Switzerland, and you have the business council, right? Embassy, political instance, the hub to bring them here. Yeah. Once they're here, they should become my members.
Come to the Swiss Business Council.
Again, in Switzerland, we cannot compete with AmCham or with the British Chamber of Commerce. But nonetheless, you can still play the game, right? And I always say, UAE and Switzerland, you have from Dubai, you have 2 flights a day to Zurich, you have 2 flights a day to Geneva, and now new, as of August 2nd, Fly Dubai, flying to Basel. So that means Emirates Group is flying to all the airports in Switzerland, Wow. And that says a lot, And I think like our job is, we are ambassador for both countries, right? We chose the UAE as our home, so we are the ambassadors of the UAE back home, and the home country, we're the ambassadors here. Because our ambassador always tells us, you Swiss business community, you are the actual ambassadors. I have the title, but you are representing what Switzerland can bring to the table, Hope that answers your question.
Very clear, and it explains a lot as well. Yeah. So aside from your, let's say, political role, ambassadorial role with the Swiss Business Council and all these organizations and government and so on, you're also advising individuals and private clients who are living in the UAE, especially from Switzerland. What sort of work that you mainly get involved in, or what example of what you?
I would say, the individuals, it's mostly about, let's call it family law inheritance issue. Yeah. What I've seen is like, it's about creating awareness, right? Because there's still all these ghosts around that it's an Arabic country and the Sharia law is applicable, etc., right? But what you've seen, the changes which have been done in the last years started at the IFC wheel a couple of years ago, almost 10 years ago.
9 years ago,
that was basically the first step to give non-Muslim an option to opt out, right? And then it came, of course, the Dubai courts will came in, and of course the Abu Dhabi will came in, right? And then last year we have seen that it was last year when they changed the family law here, right, on federal level.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that, because it's still like, oh, it's a Muslim country. It's like, it's about creating awareness. And people still come to me today and say, I need the DFC win. It's like, okay, stop, Full transparency. The law is as follows now, if you don't have a DFC win. And then I always say, like, you need to assess based on the law if you still really need a will. You can say, I still want to have a will because I give instruction to a judge, which is a bit easier to follow than just, let's say, follow the law. But nonetheless, you see that like people, once they know how the law of the land is, they get more relaxed because they can see that the UAE is really pushing towards international, let's say, investors and people to actually move here. Because you know how it is. It's like, if you choose, and more people do that, the UAE as your home, you need to have the let's say, the right legal framework, which is the right legal framework for you. You say, like, I feel home here, right? And when you see a lot of like inheritance matters, family law, there's always, like I say, like when I do events, it's like, look, you always need to think of the worst case, be ready the worst case, And like even when you talk about divorce today, it's about child custody. You very close to what we know from Europe, from Switzerland, right? And I still think this is also stuff we as lawyers still need to do. Of course, you can read Gulf News and you have all the articles, but it's something else when a lawyer tells you that, right? And I see there's still like a lot of not knowing around, because maybe you have lived here for 10 years and you still somehow in old school, and then if you just move here, you still have the wrong perception of the region or the UAE. So what we see is, like when I advise individual clients, is of course mostly, let's say, family law inheritance, because they just want to be set up here in a proper way, right? Then of course, like, you know how it is. It's like we don't have international treaties with regard to inheritance. The Hague Convention we didn't sign. Right? So it's always like, how do you deal with the cross-border implication, right? Do a DFC will, but can I put my assets in Switzerland in? You know how it is. It's like, now people coming here, it's not just to have everything here in Dubai, right? And I think that's where we play the role, again, because I know my home country jurisdiction, you know how it works back at home, that's why they come to you, right? And I think this is the big topic when we talk about individual clients. Of course, when you bring the corporate world, corporate tax now, of course, is the big topic, right? How this has an impact, right? And again, it's like, you have been longer here in the Emirates than me. And we have seen it with VAT. Maybe today, not everything is clear, right? But what advice do you give to clients? You should say, like, whatever you do, it needs to be reasonable. If you think today you're smarter than the UAE government, you're on the wrong track, right? You know how it is, And this is a bit advice when you see, like, if in 3 years you can say, I took a decision based on A, B, C, D, and that's reasonable, that's okay,
I completely agree with you. A few years back, limited liability companies with 2-3 shareholders never had an audited report for 10 years. They just distribute profits among them. There was shareholder withdrawals from the company for personal reasons, and together they sit down and settle it. And that's why there were a lot of cases happening in court and with complexities.
But that's what I say. It's like, corporate tax. I always say you have basically two sides of the coin. One is, of course, you bring in revenue for the government. And the other side is the government, for the first time, knows what all those companies in the UAE are actually doing. It's a compliance, because you need to file what you actually do with your company, If you have a fish trading license in Deira, then you better do fish trading, And I think all this together, it's the whole combo which we started talking about, right? This brings the UAE to the next level. Compliance point of view, how the international community is looking at the UAE. Of course, it's that you have a certain tax level from a fiscal point of view, but it brings clarity and a certain compliance into the system. Because as you said, if you're in DMCC, you always have to submit an audit report. But the mainland company next door
Still.
should, but you know.
Yeah, in the law they should, but there's
Exactly.
no obligation to actually
Exactly.
file returns, and that's
And then
why.
you see, it's like if you're in Ajman or in Fujairah, it's different than if you're in Abu Dhabi or Dubai,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. But you're a certified compliance officer
Yeah.
with the FSRA and with the DFSA.
Yeah.
What is the major change that you have seen in the practice? Not in DIFC companies, because I understand this as a financial center.
Yeah.
Most of the companies registered there are very compliant, or at least they have to, because they can't escape.
No, I always
that.
make one example. Bank Mirabaud, Swiss bank, got recently fined 3.5 million US dollars, right?
Yeah.
And that was not because they had a breach. But the regulator said the processes, the manuals we have in place are not sufficient. You know? So they did not onboard a crook or whatever, you know, because that's clear. But they said whatever you have in place is not sufficient.
Yes.
And I think this is the push which is done here. You know, I'm sure you had audits yourself, you know, and they want to see that you do the proper way. And what is the proper way? You do a proper KYC, a CDD, so customer due diligence, right? The starting point is a board resolution of your company where you say, what is the risk we see and what we do, right? And then basically on the customer due diligence, you measure them in accordance with your risk. You know, if you say like, all the Germans are high risk because I don't want to have an issue with the German tax authorities, it's your business decision, right?
It's a business risk assessment process that you have to do and you have to keep and you have to
and
record
what you now see is like more and more the regulator or the authorities, they want to see that you do your job, right? They want to see how do you run your company. So it's not just you can do whatever you want. They want to see that you know what's going on in your company, right? And this is again, it all falls back. We become compliant. And I always say like, this is the new normal. This is the new world standard. Right?
I've seen last year, and actually still ongoing, Ministry of Economy have been fining a lot of
exactly.
DNFBPs, whether they are real estate brokers or gold traders or whatever. Again, not because they did something wrong or let's say, not because they catch
a
money laundering or a certain transaction. It's just because are you really having your
the processes and procedures in place
in order? Do you have the documents right? I know companies who have CSP licenses, for example, and they're not doing any CSP. I know a lot of people who have diamond and gold trading activity, but they're not doing any of that, or the company have been not in business for the last 2 years.
But I say this also, of course, is connected to basically the old visa regime, right? Either you're employed or you have a company, right? So in the old days, you have a lot of people put the company in place to have the visa. And of course now with the option of all the visas, real estate investor visa, investment visa,
retirement, golden visa,
all those things, of course. And now with corporate tax anyway, non-operational company is an issue.
Yes.
You know, because questions will come, you know, and rightfully, you know. So I say like it's all connected. We have seen it. It started with ESR regulation, right? Where we're done with the letterbox company sending invoices out, because now we need to show easy who, from where, does which job. It's relatively easy, you know. It makes sense. Like, why should you send out an invoice for some consultancy? You know, management consultancy is the typical example. It's everything and nothing.
Yes.
You know, you know how it is, right?
Even the description in the book, what is management consultancy? When I read it, I try to understand what does it exactly mean.
Historically, that was one of the few activities you could have, right? So I say like, I see now a bit is like, it's the cleanup now. Right? So it's like, as a jurisdiction, as a single company, now it's time to get your books in order, to keep it as simple as possible, right?
You have a lot of European clients, right? What is or I don't know if you remember now or not, I am asking you on the spot, but what is the most misconception about the UAE in the way they come to do business. Because, for example, in my case, I have a lot of clients from Egypt, and when they come to me and say, I would like to do a general trading company, and I would like to give legal consultancy, and I would like to have a showroom for cars, and I would like all of this to happen in one license, and I don't need an office or a location for now. I just want
as cheap as possible solution.
Possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
No
Yeah.
office, no location. I just want the company for now. That's one of the very major misconceptions that comes because in other jurisdictions it's possible to put your home address as the address for the company, and mixing different type of activities.
I fully agree, because in Switzerland, for example, if you establish a company, you don't choose your activity out of a given list, right? You basically define the purpose of the company yourself, right? So you can say, I want to do shoe trading, and I want to be able to own property in the country and abroad, and I don't know what. Of course, not the regulated one, but nonetheless, you know. And then here, it's like, as you know, it's like, we have 45 different free zones, 7 Emirates, right? They all have their own activity list, right? So it's like, you maybe cannot sit in the FC because you want to have the nice office and do trading, which is not possible, right? So it's kind of like, here you can really have tailor-made solutions, but the difference between here and other jurisdictions is not one set of rules, right? And then, as you said, it's like, I would say the clients coming today, and they have a bit of knowledge about the UAE, they know it's not the Wild West anymore.
Yeah.
You know, because if a client comes to you and you say, like, for KYC purposes, I want to have passport, a utility bill, a bank reference letter, and I want to see your 6 months bank statement from your private account because you want to open an investment company, so I want to see you have the funds for the investment company, there's no backlash because they know this is what's coming, you know? Of course, you have the ones I heard from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend.
Or I read somewhere on a blog called the American Thinker.
Yeah, you can do rock ICC company, and you can, you know, 5-10 years ago. We moved on, right?
But really, this changed worldwide. It was not only the UAE to have disabilities and this whole system and offshore.
It's the new normal. I say it's the new normal. ESR is not just here. It's in the BVI, the Cayman. It's the same everywhere. That's what I mean. It's like we get your books, our books in order to get to the new normal. That's it, And it's like the friend of a friend of a friend of a friend. Right? And you know how it is even corporate tax now. There's still a lot of misconception out there. I'm in a free zone, I don't pay taxes.
Yes.
Well, maybe not, right?
We'll see.
Exactly.
It depends.
Yeah, as a lawyer, of course.
Yes.
So it depends. Yeah. But you know what I mean? It's still like, because, and you know how it is. In the large state of 50 years, no taxes, etc., etc. Of course, you know how it is, right? Yes. So it's like, under certain conditions, it's still the case, but maybe not. So I would say, like, clients coming today who have at least the minimal knowledge of the UAE and are interested in setting up in the UAE, they know it's not the Wild West anymore. People who hear from a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend of a friend, who maybe came 10 years ago, they need a bit more education, right, on how it's working.
Yes.
But I would really say, like, people who really want to move business here and have a certain minimal interest, they know what's happening here. The issue is more like when you have, let's say, a bit more the ignorant people with maybe, I would not say, let's say dubious intentions, right?
Yeah.
These guys are the issue, right? And you also know how it is. It's like when you say to a potential client, you're above my risk appetite. I don't want to onboard you, right? I'm sure if 5-10 days later he went to someone next door,
we'll take it.
And they did it, right?
Yeah. No problem with me. Go ahead.
No, but you know what I mean. But this
know.
is exactly the game. And that's what I said. It's like everyone comes to Dubai, right? So it's kind of like you can also be picky of who you want and who you don't want, right?
Yeah. Honestly, this what you're explaining right now have happened to me several times.
I know.
During the years, and I'm sure it happened to you as well. That someone come to me and say, "This is how I want to run my business," and I say, "I'm sorry, that's not."
It's above my risk appetite.
Exactly,
Right?
a nice, polite way to say no. And a few weeks down the line or month down the line, we realized that they were accepted by the authority, they were accepted by another consultant, and so on. But still, I'm not upset that we lose these clients or we don't take them on.
But why? Because you also have an obligation towards your clients.
Absolutely.
Because you do the job, they know how you do your job, so they trust you do the job, right? Because if you only need one rotten egg in your basket, right? You're done.
Yeah.
You know?
And I want to say this to our colleagues as well who are in the DNFBP or in the CSP business. It's not bad that you were not so compliant before. It's not bad that you were not up to the level
legacy. It's about the legacy.
Manage this.
Exactly.
Check it, get a compliance expert, create a gap analysis, understand what is the problem and how to fix it, maybe invest a little bit into resources and changes and develop.
No, but I say like the big topic, of course, for the NFPP is you need to have an external audit who checks on your compliance, right? Of course, it's a bit tricky because you don't want to open your books based to your competitor. You know, that's basically what's happening, right? But nonetheless, this can be also a good way to give a third party, like, look, this is what I have in place, right?
Yeah.
Tell me how I'm doing.
Yeah.
You know? Because it's like, it's always the thing is like, what is it? Being compliant is cheaper than non-compliance, no? In the end,
100%.
Right? You know what I mean? It's like
100%.
you said it before. The fines which went out, not just for the banks, for also the NFBP sector, have increased dramatically. You know, and you know how it is. We all get the questionnaires, you know, and the thematic reviews and whatever. Sometimes you feel like, I just finished the questionnaire, and why is the next one in my email, right? You know how it is, right? And then when you're in the ADGM, you get the invites for a session. A nice invite in the first line, and then the last line, it's mandatory, right? You know? But this is how we do it, you know? And I would say what they do here right is like when you go on the central bank homepage, you have guidance for all the DNFBP sectors. So if you're a CSP, you have, I don't know, 80, 100 pages just for you. You don't need to reinvent the wheel, you know? So it's like pretty much out there, right? Sometimes it's almost too much. If you know, it's like...
It's good and bad, huh?
Exactly.
It's good because it really puts the level up for everybody. It's bad because a lot of people will be out of the business very soon.
No, but you know how it is. It's the same with like a template is per se a good thing. But you don't need to think anymore. You know? You know? A template for any whatever resolution is good, but you don't need to put the thoughts in, right? Or it's copy paste, you know?
On the same topic, I have to ask you your opinion, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. How transparent or how more transparent do you think we are getting, not we as the UAE only, I'm saying even worldwide in the same business, how more transparent are we getting?
The thing is like, now what's happening is like you bring more and more player into the game, right? Before it was just the bank. If the bank does the transfer, you as a law firm, I don't care, you know? But now, basically, you have a bit the blame game, right? Because if you sit in a meeting with the client together with the banker, and the banker reports something suspicious, and you have not done the same report, there might be a question coming up. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you have more players in the whole process which have obligations now, right? It's when you do a real estate transaction, the real estate agent, he needs to check if the funds are there, where the funds are coming from. So you have the background. It's not just the bank who does the transfer, you know? So I say like, and bringing more and more in, you automatically have more transparency because it's kind of like, you don't want to be the one who has not filed the report. And the other guy who was also in the meeting, as an example, filed it. And he made reference to this meeting. You know? So it's kind of...
I'll tell you this, what you said right now is super important, because real estate business is a huge...
let's say high risk.
Very much high risk for two reasons. It's a very vulnerable industry to bad behavior. Let's put it in a nice way. And there's not much investment into the people working in the industry to be educated enough.
Because you know how it is. It's like, if you're in your law firm, you have a compliance office, it's not enough. Because if the frontline person, you know, does not report, he does not even have a clue, right? So in real estate, they also have an MRO. They need to have one. But in order that this person even gets the internal report,
brokers have to go.
The broker needs to have a certain understanding. What is the red flag? You know, it's not like they need to make the assessment, but they need to say, hey, here
are the facts. This is what
let's
happened.
have a check. You know,
let's have a check.
And this is the thing, right? It's not just the compliance officer who is in charge of all that. You know,
what you mentioned right now is very important, because real estate business is one of the most vulnerable to financial crime. And I see also that there is a big gap in the awareness and the knowledge for the stakeholders in this business. Investors are coming from everywhere in the world and from every background, and what real estate brokers or what real estate developers have been doing for the last 50 years in the UAE was not the same that they are requested to do for the last couple of years. And there was not much due diligence happening and not much awareness for these guys.
But I would say it's what I said before. You know, it's like, just because you put the laws in place does not mean it's done the same day. Right? There's some catch up to do. That's what I meant before. It's like, if it's an industry, if it's the country, if it's us, we have to catch up to do. You know, and this does not happen from yesterday to tomorrow. And you know how it is. It needs to start in a change of understanding of maybe values in your company at management level, right? And then basically it trickles down. But you need to have the management who's also ultimately liable for what the company is doing. They need to be aware of what the risks are, right? Because if the real estate broker brings in, let's say, a dubious business, let's call it like this, the ultimate responsible for it is the board. You know? And I think it's like the creating awareness needs to start at the top, you know? Because only when the top is really living basically the new standards, the new values, the new procedures, only then you can actually implement it, you know? And I say, like, we're maybe not there yet, but the push is there. Because you see, once you go out and see this company got a fine of A, B, C, D. And again, it's not because they had a dubious case, because they went in and see whatever you have in place is not enough. And in the end, you know how it is. Like human beings, when it's about the wallet, that it's a good push why you should change some procedures, right? And I would say, like, this is not the UAE, this is the whole world who has the same issue. Just because you put the law in place does not mean it's lived out there, right? And then, of course, you have certain industries, I would say, like lawyers or maybe auditors, they're just from their own background are a bit more prone to implement this. Then you have maybe a real estate broker, or like they're more like on the business and the actual operation side, which like compliance is more like an administrative hassle on top, right? Which maybe needs a bit more to be implemented. I would say, you see what the government is doing, and of course it's also big business for lawyers. Because as a lawyer, you can go out, or as a compliance officer, you can say, I offer your team, your real estate developing company, trainings, you know? This can also be an opportunity for us as lawyers to be, if you have a lawyer/compliance background, to go out and say, like, hey, I can offer you this service. Because, you know, nowadays, compliance officers are a rare species. Everyone needs compliance officers, right? You know how it is, you know? And then it's like, if you have a different size of a company, you maybe can also not afford to have like full-blown compliance officer, because you know, an MLRO is not a compliance officer.
Yeah,
right?
different role.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you need to have an MLRO as a designated non-financial, this is just the guy who reports.
Yeah.
You know, but the training on paper should be done by this person, but I don't know if they always have the background. Right? You know a bit how it is.
Yeah.
So I see like these changes are also big opportunity for us to jump into that, you know,
Yeah.
and help the industry.
As certified from DIFC and the FSA and FSRA, do you see a lot of difference when you are doing your compliance roles for a financial regulated entity and a non-financial?
I would say, you know, it's like ADGM as an example, right?
Yeah.
It's the same return. If you're a law firm or a bank,
Yeah.
it's the same. So
Yes.
it's literally the same,
Yeah.
right? There's no difference.
Yeah.
That says it all, right? So that means your compliance knowledge, your procedures, your manuals, they need to be the same.
Yeah.
You know, that's the level.
It was not the same before, but now.
But again, this of course is also like we have, let's say, that's what we have a bit of fragmented, let's call it, framework here in the UAE, right?
Yeah.
So ADGM has a different level than maybe Ajma. Not judgmental, whatever. It's just a fact.
Just an example.
You know how it is. To be a CSP in ADGM, you need to go through a rigorous process.
Yes.
It's full compliance on you, and you're checked up and down and literally, right? If you want to be a CSP in DMCC or where else, there's no such thing.
Yeah.
Yet, maybe, yet, you know? But this is a bit the thing, is like here we have different regulatory frameworks,
Yeah.
right? Because ADGM as a DNFBP, your AML goes to the financial regulator.
Yeah.
So you semi-regulate. Of course, in DMCC you go to the Ministry of Economy, but the approach is different. I don't say worse or better or whatever, not judgment, it's different, right? And I would say also the understanding is different from, let's call it, authority side, right? Because of course, if you have a regulator, financial regulator, showing up at your office, doing a check on your compliance procedure, it's a different thing than as if the MCC would come,
Yeah.
you know? Because what we see in the industry is, of course, the same in the government. You know, you have different level of competency, right? Of course, financial sector, these are the tough guys. And let's say for the non-financial zones, it's a different setup.
Yeah. It's not, yeah.
I don't say better or worse.
No.
It also does
Just
not need,
different,
everyone
yeah.
needs to be basically checked as a bank.
Actually, it's a fun part because you realize as a CSP or as a lawyer doing business all across the UAE, you'll be regulated, literally regulated and monitored by DIFC, ADGM, Ras Al Khaimah,
The Ministry
of Economy, sometimes the MCC compliance.
But then what do? You take the gold standard and apply it across the board.
Yeah,
right?
that's exactly what we do.
That's the only thing you can do.
Yeah.
You know?
Which one, in your opinion, is the gold standard?
For now, I would say ADGM.
ADGM, is the top one. Yeah.
I'm not paid by ADGM to say. No, but you know a bit how it is. Right? You know a bit how it is. But again, this is how we are today. This has historically grown. Right? And 45 different free zones are 45 different gardens. And everyone has a garden, make sure that his garden is a bit different than the garden next door. This is just how it is, right? And now coming with a unilateral overall concept, overall that, of course, it needs to take time to be implemented, you know? So I don't say it's bad or good, it just needs time, you know? And again, it's what I said before with VAT and corporate tax. It's like if you're a real estate broker and you can show that to the best of your knowledge, you try and do it, it's a different statement from you than to say, oh, I didn't do it. You know? And if your compliance manual, like for your staff, has 3 pages, then I don't need to tell you that's maybe not enough. You know?
I completely agree with you. The problems with compliance is not actually that something wrong happened. The problem with the fines of being non-compliant is doing nothing about
because you don't have the procedures in place. And it's like when you look, for example, the Ministry of Economy, the first questionnaires that came up. Do you have a policy in place? Tick yes. Now, do you have the policy in place? Tick yes, please upload.
Yeah. Different. Absolutely. This will take me to another question, and again, feel free not to answer. Do you think income tax is coming?
For individuals?
For individuals. Personal income tax?
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
The thing about this is like, in order to have a corporate tax, to have teeth, you need to have the pendant on the individual side tax, right?
Yeah.
So for example, if you take money out, is it hidden dividend payment? Or whatever, as an example, right? So you need to have a bit this tandem. But we will see how corporate tax will be implemented here, I don't think that on midterm personal income tax is coming. But again, maybe there's international pressure. Who knows what's happening in the future, right? What do you think?
I think it's coming, but as you said, not on the mid.
Not on the short term.
No, I'm thinking in about 10 years.
Yeah.
7 to 10 years that it will come, because something have to support this huge infrastructure.
Yeah.
And I don't think corporate tax alone will be able to cover that, because the tremendous amount of cost that's happening and the tremendous expansion that the UAE is doing.
With taxes, it's always the thing. It's like, if you pay taxes,
that's not a bad thing.
And you see where the money is going, it's not an issue.
Yeah.
If you think as a taxpayer, I pay and disappears, that's an issue. So that's why I say like, tax is per se not bad. We will see what happens with corporate tax. Will the corporate tax be put into the system to help business grow, to expand, to I don't know, build a business infrastructure? Then you can see as an owner, if I pay corporate tax, it goes into something benefiting, let's say, the UAE ecosystem, right? And if you need to do that, it's not an issue, Yeah,
if you get something back.
Exactly. It's always about the tax.
Yeah.
But then, of course, you have, let's say, also European countries where people say, I'm done because I pay taxes like crazy, but I don't feel like I get something in return. It's not bad, not judgmental, but this is the perception of people,
That's one of the most common things that I hear for newcomers, especially the foreign direct investment kind of entrepreneurs who come and put a subsidiary or a startup business here, or just come for residency based on the golden visa and so on. Is that they just feel like, I pay so much taxes, I don't need to be there, and I don't feel it.
Exactly.
So I want to come here. I don't pay so big taxes. Even the corporate tax is a very competitive
it's a safe
rate.
haven, 9%.
Amazing, 9% is not a problem, and the infrastructure is really amazing. And what they get back is maybe not.
No, what you get back is safety. A clean city. There's not one pothole in the highway to Abu Dhabi. There's not one hole. It's perfect street. Like even when you see we had the big floodings. Within a week, more or less.
Yeah, it was remarkable.
In most of the city, it was cleared, right?
I was lucky I was not here.
Lucky you. No, but you know a bit what I mean. This is when you see, this is what the UAE provides. And I always say it's like, coming back to perception, it's like, it's an Arabic country, and then of course, do you need to wear the burqa? No, you don't. And then I always say like, again, if you take Dubai Metro, there's one wagon just for women and kids. I've not seen that in any public transport in Europe, as an example.
I haven't seen it also.
You have half the ministers of this country are female. You have female ambassadors all over the world. And it's about the perception of being part here. Even as a woman, there's not, this is it. When they say like, the whole what you get back, that's what's important. And even if you have personal income tax, of course, some people say like, it's not for me, I move. We have seen it with VAT. But everyone said with the introduction of VAT, the big move out will happen. No, it did not happen because what you get in return is still outweighing of the 5%.
Yeah, 100%.
You know?
Yeah. No. Anybody who's telling me that, and I've said this for years, anybody who's telling me that the people are here because a UAE is a tax-free place, I tell them, sorry, think again, because that's not the reason I'm here.
I always say, like, that's maybe a nice add-on. Yeah, you cannot deny it.
Of course, it's
nice
appealing,
appeal, right?
but that's not the main reason.
Exactly.
It's not.
And I always say, like, look, you can go to Dubai International Airport. You have a direct flight to Auckland, New Zealand, and you have a direct flight to LA, the United States.
Yes. Yeah. True.
So it's the infrastructure here.
So it's obviously that you love the UAE, and this is a very interesting place for you.
I always say the same. There's no perfect place in the world. You know? Let's agree on that.
Yeah. It's going to be boring if there's one perfect place.
Few things are good here, few things are like, you have headaches too here. It's not about this.
Oh, of course,
but
every day.
In the end, it's about what you make out of being here. You know, you can be grumpy, complain about it, or you just say, look,
and make the best out of it.
Make out of it.
Yeah. Do you love your job as a lawyer?
Like, why did you become a lawyer? That's a big question.
For me?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think I knew I would be a lawyer when I was like 10 years old.
Okay.
Wow. My dad was like my...
he was a lawyer?
He is a lawyer.
Okay.
And he was my hero. I felt like this guy is better 10 times than Superman. Mm-hmm. It's like he's my hero in everything. And I learned from him a lot. I was maybe 10 years old in the law firm. So I enjoyed so much understanding and talking like them and dressing like them and so on and so forth. So I knew it from the beginning. So I think I started lawyering when I was in high school.
Okay.
So I don't think I thought of any other profession.
A true calling for you, a true calling.
Yes, I was drawn into it from the very beginning. And what I didn't realize that I thought I liked courts a lot, and I thought pleading in court or
that's
doing
like the
TV court
shows,
exactly.
Suits, right?
Yes, I felt that courts is my thing, and after 2 months in court, I went to my dad and I told him, like, listen, if you want this relationship to continue in a nice way, I'm not gonna go to court again. And he was super nice. He was understanding, and he told me, listen, if that's not your place, no problem. Out my door, because that's what I do. And this helped me a lot to find my place. Here in the UAE because of that.
It's got a nice push.
Yes,
nice push.
kind of.
That's good.
Yeah. So I told my story. What's your story?
How I became a lawyer?
How I became a lawyer. What drawn in?
You want to have the honest answer?
You can give me both. Okay. I'll edit.
The honest answer is I was not good in math. So an MBA is not really a thing to go for, right? If you're not good in math, all the technical jobs are basically,
I think a lot of lawyers will connect to that.
And then the languages was also not so really my thing. So it's kind of like, okay, what is a proper solid base where you can still grow? Okay, you go for a lawyer, Because, you have a lot of journalists who studied law. You have them everywhere because it's still a good base. Even if you don't go to court, you have a solid base, let's say, like the tools to go through life.
Yeah.
But to be honest, at that age, my dad was an engineer, my mom was a nurse, so I was not in a legal, let's call it, environment. And it's just because you're young, so kind of, okay, why not,
Lawyer, banker,
but then again, I would
watchmaker.
still say, like, nowadays, you're not set in stone. So you can, I always say, like, for example, why did I go in compliance here? I'm 8 years now here in the Emirates. If I ever go back to Switzerland, like, a Swiss law firm is not really interested in me anymore because you have been out for too long, Look at the changes in the legal landscape even here. It's hard to catch up, right?
Yeah.
So, like, what can you add on to your lawyer backpack? And compliance is a nice thing, because compliance is getting bigger and bigger all around the world, and it's like not really connected to any jurisdiction. While maybe law, if you want to go to the US tomorrow, I'm a civil law lawyer, so
You have to start from scratch.
You know,
Yeah.
but if you come with a compliance plus lawyer background, you might be interesting again, you know?
Yeah.
And this is what I say, it's also about the Emirates Legal Network. It's again, as a lawyer, you need to push yourself. You're never done with educating yourself, take trainings, push yourself. You know, it's like, we did law school and you took the bar, but
Yeah.
it's not it. You know what I mean? You became DFC
That's
wheel
the
draftsman.
start.
You became DFC wheel draftsman.
Yeah.
You did this. Maybe you did compliance.
Yeah.
I don't know. But it's a never-ending training, right?
One last question
Yeah.
for you. What do you advise Swiss lawyers
Yeah.
who want to come and work in the UAE? So that's very specific advice. Young ones.
No, what I always say is like, it's a bit about the perception about the UAE. First, most important thing is no one is waiting for you here. You know, we all work hard here
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
to make
yeah.
it happen. You know, you can, but no one is waiting for you here. That's the most important thing. You know, because I still also have clients calling me, I have the best glacier mineral water from some Alps somewhere in Europe.
Yes.
You know? We can sell for a premium in Dubai because, you know, it's
Yeah.
like, first of all, we only have 10 of those.
Yeah.
You know, it's like for lawyers, it's the same for everyone. It's like I would go back and say like, what is your niche you can bring to the table?
Yeah.
What is your elevator pitch? You know, but no one is waiting just because you're a Swiss lawyer. You know what I mean? What would be your advice?
It's quite similar to yours, but I would add on is that the competition here is fierce.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable. If you think you're on the top of the world, no. If you think you're going to come and just work 4 hours a day and socialize the rest and work smart, not hard, I'm sorry.
That's what I mean. It's like no one is waiting for you here.
Yeah.
And then the thing is also like maybe compared to other jurisdiction, it's in very simple terms, UAE is 24/7.
Yeah.
If you get the call from your client on a Saturday and you don't answer that call, the client will find someone else who will take that call.
That would be me.
No, but you know what I mean?
100%,
You know?
100%.
And this bit, the perception sometimes is like,
Yeah.
it's not really 9 to 6, Monday to Friday.
But last comment on
Yeah,
this,
yeah.
there's enough business for everybody and there's enough opportunities for everybody. If you think
Yeah.
that the market is saturated, you're wrong.
No, I say
Yeah.
there's a niche
Yeah.
for everyone.
Everyone, yes.
But again, it's like you need to be somehow a bit more special than the guy next door.
yeah, think of a way to do that.
Exactly. So you, before coming to here, is like we need to think about the elevator pitch. What can I bring to the table? But just because I'm a Swiss lawyer, that's not enough.
There's not,
You know?
yeah,
You agree on that?
I
Right?
agree 100%.
And we all work hard. That's what I said. You know.
Yes.
So like even to my brother, it's like, no, I'm not sitting at the beach with the laptop.
I wish.
You know what I mean? It's like it's also a big perception.
Yeah.
Right. So no, we all work hard.
Yeah,
Here, you know.
absolutely. And with that, I thank you very much, and I
Thank
will
you.
let you go to continue working hard in
Yeah.
your office. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Hope to see you again soon at any of the Emirates Legal Network's events or other events, right?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And with this, I thank you very much for listening and watching. And this is your dose from Monday Legal. See you next week.